Colin Camp and the Madison Radicals have won 24 straight games here at Breese Stevens Field. They look to extend that historic streak tonight against the Chicago Wildfire. Drizzly conditions, but still a lively atmosphere expected. They love their Radicals here in Madison.
With a team like Madison, you really got to be on your A game.
Lefty backhand shot off Mechanix's hands. There was contact and he comes up with it anyway. Wiseman tipped it in through the hands. Jack Shea in pursuit and in control. He hits Goose Hilton.
One of the challenges for us is never overlook a team, right?
Honestly, I don't even really think about our home winning streak because I feel like we never have close games at home.
Week 7 in the AUDL season is a Midwest matchup in Madison. A drizzly Friday night, but the party must go on. The pizza bus is warm and we're ready to go as the Wildfire look to get their third win of the year. The Radicals, one of 3 remaining undefeated teams, trying to stay perfect on the season. Hi everybody, delighted to have you with us. I'm Evan Lepler. Great to be back alongside Megan Tormey. And Megan, the Madison Radicals 3 years in a row have won this Midwest division. 3 years in a row, their championship dreams have ended against the eventual champion. So how does Madison get ready and focus on tonight's game while still thinking about the larger goal at hand?
Well, it's a difficult task ahead of them, but they have to start challenging themselves this early in the season and imagine what would we do if our zone wasn't working right now? How would we approach this if our offense was stymied? Like I said, that's a very tricky thing to do, but it's the only way they're going to discover the chinks in their armor so that when they get to, if they get to the championship weekend, they're ready for that level of competition.
And it's a tough mindset to have because they need to not think of themselves as playing against Chicago tonight. They need to be getting ready to play the top teams from the other divisions like Dallas and San Francisco, presumably. But it's a tough mindset to have when you have to focus on the task at hand.
It is. It makes you think that perhaps they're looking beyond the game that they're stepping onto the field. But given the way that they've performed the last 2 championships, they performed excellently, but they didn't walk away with the championship they were hoping for, and so they're going to have to start thinking earlier.
Well, we'll see how they fare the rest of the season, but focusing on tonight, the Radicals have gotten off to a 3-0 start because of a slew of returning talent, but Andrew Mechanic is a guy who continues to just put up numbers game in, game out.
Absolutely. Madison prides themselves on how deep their roster is. Anyone from the top to the bottom of the roster can step on the field and be the player they want to, and yet Andrew Mechanic still manages to stand out. His size alone is what helps define the Madison Cup, but I also think it's his field awareness that helps him get those extra Ds that puts him at the top of the chart. And then it's that same field awareness that enables him to cut into the end zone and score for the Radicals time and time again.
He was an all-AUDL performer a season ago for the Radicals. The Chicago Wildfire team does not bear a great resemblance to the 2015 squad that made the playoffs a season ago, but A.J. Nelson, his dance moves are questionable. His on-field performance is not. It's possible he's the most talented guy on either side tonight.
I would agree that he is. He's such a well-rounded individual. You can put him in any role on the team and he's going to excel. It is now even more important for him to continue to be the player he is so that he can help this newer Chicago squad redefine themselves and start to climb the way back to the top of the Midwest Division.
Chicago's trying to build cohesiveness, but they've got a lot of young guys that their coaching staff likes a lot. Rainy conditions, but we're undeterred. The opening pull coming up. Madison and Chicago, the Radicals looking for their 25th home win in a row, and the action starts in just a couple minutes.
Imagine you're in a new town for a couple of days and you find yourself wanting a bike. Use Spin Lister to rent any kind of bike in your area in over 55 countries. Have an unforgettable adventure while saving up to 40% on rentals. And whatever you do, don't forget to enjoy your ride. Rent a bike today or list your own to start making money and connecting with awesome people.
They just wrapped up the national anthem here at Breese Stevens Field, and we are about set for Ultimate as Week 7 in the AUDL begins on our only Friday ESPN3 telecast of the season. And And it's fantastic to be back alongside Megan Tormey as the Radicals and Wildfire get ready to go to action. And there's the two captains of the Wildfire, Jack Shea and AJ Nelson. Chicago, Megan, lost a bunch of big names, a two-time AUDL MVP and Jonathan Helton, a guy like Brett Matsuka, who is so dominant around the disc. You could say the same thing about Bob Lou. And the guy that no one else is talking about is the former captain, Cullen Geppert, who certainly was a very solid member of their O-line. With that said, they're 2-2. They haven't had their whole team together. They're building, but they're optimistic. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, because they have a lot of talent stepping onto the field. It's just a matter of whether or not they can become cohesive as a unit. So they certainly aren't lacking for players who can get the job done. It's just a matter of, can everyone buy into the same program, and can that happen before it's too late in the season?
Playing against a team like Madison sometimes makes that growth process a little more difficult, or it can go the other way. Or you could play your best game playing against the best team in the division.
And we've seen so far definitely moments of brilliance from the Chicago Wildfire. Like I said, it's a matter of when they're able to turn it on. So because every game has been so different from them in terms of who's able to make it to the game, we'll see what Chicago is able to bring tonight.
Tim DeBile, the head coach and owner of the Madison Radicals, has received plenty of praise for his innovative style and system, leading the Madison program to 3 consecutive Midwest Division titles. And it looks like the Radicals will begin on defense. You see Peter Graffey, Scott Riggles, Kevin Pettit-Scantling, Thomas Coolidge, Andrew Mechanic, Jay Frood, and Logan Pruce, who's making his Madison debut tonight. 19 of the 20 guys on Madison's active roster are returning Radicals. Pruce is the lone rookie, and he makes his debut this evening. Chicago's offensive line to start it out will be led by AJ Nelson, of course, and Tim Fergus, a very key threat in the handler core. Von Allen Gilon with his first touch, back from an injury last season. Fergus snags it. Pettit-Scantling laying out. Smooth offense so far, and a very smooth first point for the Wildfire. AJ Nelson with his 16th goal of the season. Miller with the assist.
Compare this to the very first game that the Wildfire played this season. The weather was fairly similar. They were looking a lot more confident and comfortable playing with a wet disc tonight.
The Radicals O-line will take the field, led by Andrew Brown and Tom Annan. But this offensive point, I mean, Chicago a week ago only scored 6 goals in the first half of their game against Detroit. Now they scored 12 in the second half. They put the pieces together in their 5-goal win against the Mechanix. But this has to be a nice little comforting point to get the game started with a score that quickly.
Absolutely. I have always felt that the first 3 points of the game can really help define the mental mindset of your team. And if you start off with an easy score against a team like Madison, it's certainly going to get you a little more comfortable.
Schreiwise centers it to Colin Camp, and there's the first touch for Dave Wiseman. Back to Kevin Brown, who's been a defensive line guy in the past for Madison, playing more offense this year. Want to have a more explosive guy to stretch the field. A turnover-free opening minute here at Breeze Stevens. Graduation weekend here in Madison. And there's the first giveaway. Schreiwise, pass incomplete, intended for Camp. See the O-line for Madison double teaming in the sideline, but Chicago looks pretty smooth breaking it. Shea centers to Dan Williams. Underneath, wide open. Chicago looking very smooth right now. Williams into the hands of Shea. Williams plays through the contact, and perhaps the contact changed the rhythm. Jack Shea with a drop.
Chicago did a great job of keeping the disc in the center of the field that point. They know that it's essential to do that against the Madison, even their offense putting on that very stifling cup against the sideline.
Wiseman shoots it. And it's too far. So this Madison offense prides itself on its smooth, its conservative style, its efficiency. 2 turnovers on their first point will not make the head coach very happy.
And oftentimes mistakes like that beget more mistakes. So we'll see if they get the disc back from Chicago, they manage to center themselves and play that smooth offense we know them for.
Madison, San Francisco, and Dallas are the 3 remaining undefeated teams in the league. Just about a third of the way through the season. Williams was screaming at the referee that there was contact, did not get a call, and Camp has it near midfield. Andrew Brown, the super steady handler, and he was just stalled out. 7 seconds with the disc. That's a turnover. I don't remember too many times watching the Radicals in person where they've had 3 turnovers on an offensive point. Chicago looking for it, but the throw from Alex Champ was too far for his intended target.
And of course, in weather like this, we're going to see a few more mistakes from both teams because that wet disc is very difficult to work with. All the same, I too am surprised to see the mistakes we've seen from Madison so far this point.
Looping throw intercepted. Chicago on the brink. And the break, no, a receiver travel, and I think that's a good call because it looked like the disc was released inside the end zone. So it's a receiver travel going against Brett Hidaka. First-year member of the Wildfire, double teamed on the mark. Can the Wildfire punch it in? Yes. More than 3.5 minutes off the clock, but finally the Wildfire register the break and lead 2-0.
You know, we've spent a little bit of time talking about some of the people who have left the Wildfire, but it's important to mention some of the people who have returned. Dan Williams and Jeff Saradnesky both coming back after not playing for a season, certainly making their presence known this point.
Andrew Sheehan and Jack Shea as well connecting on the score. Wildfire coached by Chris Ashbrook in his second season. Talked about how he likes the guys he has. He just hasn't been able to have the same guys from one week to the next. Again, this weekend, the Wildfire without Adrian King, who's been serving as an assistant coach, offensive coordinator type guy in the handling core. Secondary Madison O-line right now, and Mechanix launches. Great adjustment by Riggles, but he could not haul it in. Nice job on the sideline, Michael Pardo keeping his feet in bounds as he made the catch. Charlie First dishes it off to Neil Phelps. Lots of different names growing into larger roles for the Wildfire. Yiding Howe. Right at the center of the field. Good pivot, but fantastic defense. Logan Pruce with his first AUDL D. Jay Frood looking to the end zone for Pruce, and it slipped right through his grasp. A brilliant bookends, not to be. Logan Pruce, a two-time gold medalist playing for U23 United States national teams. I think, Megan, we had a hunch that this could be a low-scoring game tonight. I don't think we imagined 2 goals in the first 6 minutes.
Absolutely not. This might be a record for fewest goals scored in an AUDL game.
And another miscue there on the deep shot. The wind is not violent, but it's steady, and it certainly makes everything, including the disc and your hands, much colder. The rain is not torrential, but similarly, it's steady. Mechanix thought about it. Underneath, it's Coolidge to Frood. He'll try again. This time it's Wriggles. Got it. Madison on the board. Wriggles, 33 years young, 6'7", and still one of the fastest guys in the entire league.
And fastest considering he spent a couple of years retired before coming out of retirement to play for the Madison Radicals. So that's clearly some pretty amazing staying power.
So the Radicals score their first goal. It took them nearly 7 minutes to do it. And here comes the second offensive point. It seems like days ago that Chicago scored in 30 seconds to start the game.
And I think this is something that's very difficult to stay mentally on top of. When points begin to drag on like this, it can feel like you've gone a very long time without having any success. But when you look at it, they scored just the point prior to this one. So if they keep that in mind and keep playing the way that they have been, this will be a tighter game.
This is a zone point for the Madison defense, and it looks like Chicago player shaken up. And that is one of the newcomers, Brett Hidaka. One of the few Kansas City core, Hidaka and Christian Simpson and Joe Young, all coming from Kansas City area. And Hidaka, who has really been a spark plug for this team. See him walking off with Chris Ashbrook, the Wildfire's head coach. Now, Hidaka in 3 games, Megan, has put together 7 assists and 5 Ds, and it looks like he's not feeling good.
That's a tragic loss for Chicago. I know they were really going to count on him pretty heavily to be the kind of person who could throw over the Madison zone. Looks like they may have put Mike Scheel in place, who's also typically a very reliable player, but threw right into the hands of the Madison Radicals at that point.
And turnover on the restart. Radicals looking to seize momentum. Seth Meyer pivots near the goal line. Stall count rising, and he didn't get it off. The second stall called against the Radicals here in the first quarter. The first was on Andrew Brown. This one against Seth Meyer. Chicago looking to go the full 80 yards of the field, which can seem daunting when this Madison zone is standing on top of you. When Matt Weber and Andrew Mechanix are next to you, it feels like they're standing on top of you.
Practically, you think how much advantage the offense has in the AUDL, but when you're faced against those 2 individuals, suddenly you don't feel it's such an advantage anymore.
Of course, no team is more experienced at facing the Madison zone than Chicago. That is a 50-50 disc, and it's knocked away by Meyer.
And those are the kind of throws Madison is really depending on, the ones where you think you're doing the smart move by throwing it over the cup, and it's lofty enough for them to come in and get the D.
No chance on that shot. Mike Scheel with the slap away. First time Madison has played since its win in Pittsburgh on April the 30th. Certainly a very big win. The Thunderbirds and the Radicals suspected to be the two teams battling for the division crown at the start of the season. A huge hammer, and it's knocked away. The near side wing this time. Jay Frood gets in for the D. Madison's just second home game. They'll play at home, though, basically each of the next 5 weekends. Shot toward the end zone, and it works. Hauled in by Madison's David Meineke. They call him Buddy, and he ties the score at 2.
I have to say, Evan, I really felt for Chicago that point. I've been in situations like that where you're playing offense against a really tight zone. You try swinging it intelligently, it gets knocked away. You try throwing it over the top, and they are ready for those throws. It's very, very frustrating from the offensive standpoint.
And then just a little back and forth here between Ben Nelson and Buddy Meineke. Meineke the score, Nelson the assist. And we're even at 2 apiece. Jay Frood was a first-year Radical last year, and my was he impressive. A teammate of Brett Hidaka and Christian Simpson and Joe Young in Kansas City. And I know Jay had a long car ride up from Kansas City today, but he made it. Type of guy who could be a game changer for Madison on both sides of the disc. There's a Scuba through the pressure. Power position and a launch. Joe Young sent it, and it's almost caught and then dropped by Yiding Howe. Not the first guy to drop a disc tonight, probably won't be the last, but every time it's still kind of painful, isn't it?
Absolutely.
The other way, Madison on the doorstep. Brian Hart to Frood. And are they going to call that a score? Referees will converge. Looked to me like he caught it just outside the end zone, and they will assess a receiver travel. And he'll back up about 10 yards from the goal line. And the Radicals score anyway. Frood with another assist. Brian Hart, so steady, gives Madison its first lead. Here's the open look to Chicago. Got to maintain possession through the landing, and he did not. A little confusion there, and then Hart with a basic cut from the front of the stack. How has Brian Hart grown as a player these past couple of years from what you've seen?
Well, the interesting thing about Madison, because they have such a deep roster, is that it can be easy to lose track of individuals until they start to break away, until they start to pull away. Definitely individual performances, I think, is what's going to make them great players in the championship setting. And Brian Hart is one of those players who's learned to dictate by his own actions on the field, as opposed to just being one of the many cohorts that is the Madison Radicals.
Well, you see plenty of fans with umbrellas. There's a larger crew of fans that are underneath the overhang to the left of the Radicals end zone they're about to pull from, and there you see a little drier place to watch the game. We couldn't fit all of them up here in the press box with us.
Which is a shame, because I think this is probably the warmest spot on the field right now. You know, you really think that the experience at Breese Stevens Stadium couldn't get any better, and yet they really have upped the ante this year. There are better food options. The new turf field looks absolutely beautiful. Some fantastic work done over the offseason here.
This was a grass surface for such a long time, and the city added turf a couple years ago. Was told by Madison owner Tim DeBile that the goalposts expect to be removed by August for championship weekend. so they won't have the goalpost to contend with. No slam dunk celebrations from Simon Higgins, which might be good news for him considering what happened last time he tried out in Oakland. So far so good after the Wildfire took a timeout. The zone defense tightens things up near the goal line. Simpson swings it. Here's Fergus in the middle. Into the hands of Shield, and to the end zone it goes. A.J. Nelson with his second strike from the veteran Mike Shield. And the Wildfire tie it up. Less than 30 seconds to go in the opening quarter.
Something that happened this point, Evan, that I think is crucial, that it continues to happen, is Chicago did an excellent job of alternating between moving it side to side and then getting it in the middle of the field. Of course, they only have a split second to find those openings in between Radical players, but as long as they keep shifting the direction in which they're attacking the end zone, it makes scoring against the Madison zone a possibility.
Mike Shield, a guy who's been around this game for a long time. He was a gold medal winner in 1998 as a member of the U.S. Junior National Team. Was coached by legends Tina Booth and Michael Baccarini in a gold medal run in Blaine, Minnesota. Before many of us knew what Ultimate was, Mike Shield was winning gold medals.
Yeah, he said he first watched Nationals in Lexington, Kentucky in 1993. His uncle was playing. He thought the speed of the game looked fun.
Time is running out of the Radicals here. Tom Annan capable of launching it. He gives it up to Kevin Brown. And that's gonna not get to the end zone. And that'll do it for the opening 12 minutes tonight. All in all, an up and down first quarter, but the visitors from Chicago have to be feeling all right, considering Madison went on that 3-0 run and the Wildfire have tied it up. 1 down, 3 to go tonight here at Breese-Stevens. A 24-game home winning streak on the line. Chicago and Madison even at 3.
Early recognition is critical. Teaches middle school PE classes about ultimate Frisbee and cancer symptom awareness.
We're a registered nonprofit that advocates for an active, healthy lifestyle, body awareness, and speaking up if something is wrong.
Skills that, when it comes to cancer, can help save a life. Ultimate is a fast-paced team sport that's self-refereed, non-contact, and co-ed.
Spirit of the game is the foundation of Ultimate. That means we communicate respectfully, we're fair-minded, and we enjoy the game.
Ultimate is accessible to everyone. All you need is a Frisbee and some friends. Our team of coaches is made up of experienced and passionate leaders from the Ultimate community.
We teach kids that playing fair is more important than winning.
We can come to your middle school and run your PE classes for the day. And if we're not in your area yet, we'll send you our clinic in a box, where we give you the resources to run your own.
Ultimate Frisbee is one of the fastest growing sports in the world.
Teachers and parents love Ultimate Frisbee.
We are Eric!
And we want to work with you and your school.
Madison Radicals and the Chicago Wildfire tied at 3 after 12 minutes. Madison with so many returning players this year, more than anyone else in the league, but Pat Trywise talked yesterday about how they're a deeper team than they've been in the past.
I think every year we get a deeper roster at the beginning of the season, and that's our biggest asset. We keep on picking up better and better players and filling out the lower end of our roster. And so it's just like, do you want to throw on, defensive line 1 or defensive line 2? And it's like, take your pick, right? It's fine. Either one, you can come back to that offensive team and be like, hey, are you guys still trying to score on them or what? Like, what's going on here? So that's just really exciting to always know that there's someone to step up. Whether it's the 16th through 20th guy, right? They're all really, really solid players.
Pat Trywise was drier yesterday when we were chatting with him on the campus at the University of Wisconsin. 4 newcomers this year, Megan, for the Radicals. 1 in action tonight, Logan Pruce, who already has a nice D to his docket. Ryan Tucker has really been a solid player in the club scene for many, many years, made an impact through the first 3 Radicals games. Abe Coffin Tim DeBile can't stop talking about how good he has been. And then a guy, Kyle Weigand, who's only been active one game against Indianapolis, but he's a guy that came to tryouts and really shocked the world with how he performed in the measurables and how he played in the scrimmages to earn his spot.
A lot of people have been wondering whether or not Madison has shown us the best that they have to offer. But when you talk about the people that they have added, certainly begs the question, well, perhaps we haven't.
The rain's picked up a little bit, and Chicago has a break in less than 30 seconds to start the quarter. Nice catch in the end zone on a blading disc by Jimmy Sikora. And the Wildfire strike fast.
Yeah, that was a tricky catch regardless of the weather. Throw in that rain, and if he had dropped it, we would have just said, well, that's another one to the elements. He really understood the importance of that moment and being aware of the weather, making sure he dug under to make that catch.
Well, that goes as a drop. Mistake from Madison, and Chicago, they struck fast, but you could see they did it calmly.
Yeah, Andrew Sheehan taking his time to get set up, making sure that looking downfield, his players were ready to make a strike. Worked out well for them.
Graffey has it for Madison. Marked by Howe. Looking long for Mechanic. Oh, and you can just get the sense from the body language on that catch how difficult the conditions are right now. Mechanic able to convert it into a score from Frood. I mean, Megan, you've played Ultimate in conditions like this. It's fun, but it's also not fun because you know the disc is slippery. You don't know what the wind is going to make it do.
It's funny that you say it's fun because anymore I really don't think it's fun. It's not the rain that bothers me so much, but the cold. When you can't feel your hands to make the catch, I'd write my contract and I'm not interested.
Megan's contract is full of stipulations. We don't have nearly enough time to run through it right now.
Each one of them warranted.
Jay Frood having a strong statistical start to the game. So the Radicals D-line set to pull. You see Mike Swain out there on the field, number 27. Expect Madison to go man. The Radicals have been playing more man-to-man defense as different teams in the Midwest, especially on days when the conditions aren't like this. You know, teams in this division have just seen the Madison zone so often.
Well, when you can mix up your defensive looks, it really gives you a lot of opportunity to surprise the opposing team. And then, of course, you always want a mix of defenses in your arsenal when you're going against even stronger teams.
Christian Simpson's throw fell incomplete. Miscommunication downfield between him and his intended target. Logan Pruce basically has the car keys to the offense, his head coach said, or maybe not, because Tim DeBile just went and called timeout and said, let's get the O-line back out there for the conclusion to this point as we try to retake the lead.
Guess the keys got taken away.
Madison led 3-2 in the first quarter. We're currently tied 4-4. We'll take the timeout 2 early in the second here in Madison.
Motel 6 is rolling out their bright, modern, updated rooms across America, so I thought I'd give you the tour. To your right, you'll see some brand new comfy bedding and bold new colors. To your left, you'll find a new flat-screen TV, so luxuriously flat. Plus, a fully updated bathroom. You get all this and more, still for the lowest price of any national chain. Take it in. Take it all in. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Back to Breeze Stevens Field, Evan Lepler with Megan Tormey as the Chicago Wildfire turned it over. So Madison's offense returning to the field. Radicals offense led by the handlers Annan and Brown, but so steady downfield with the cutting of Colin Camp, Pat Trywise, Dave Wiseman. It's hard to match up with a team like Madison because it's hard to differentiate between their cutters. They're all similar and capable of doing a lot of things.
And they're all similarly sized. It's one of those things that's they're all difficult to guard against. You look down the list and most of the individuals on the Madison Radical are 6'2" and over.
Jack Shea matched up with Pat Schreiwise to the left. Colin Camp trying to stay warm with Nick Zeman nearby on the right. See Dan Williams doing a little jig.
Still think it looks fun, Evan?
You know, for a short while. It's probably warmer up here. 90 seconds gone in this second quarter. Low scoring game to be expected in these conditions. Pat Schreiwise with a tough under. You know, something that you don't talk about a ton, Megan, the guy cutting on that long undercut, it's tough to keep running through the disc at that full speed in the rain. It just naturally is difficult to do that in these conditions.
For a couple of reasons. One, you feel like if you slip, you're going to suffer catastrophic injury. And second of all, you know that you're attacking a wet, cold disc and it's going to be difficult to catch it. You can't slow down or you're going to get D'd.
Colin Camp had a chance to haul that one in near the goal line, couldn't do it. Dave Wiseman lofted it up there. That's a tough break to get the swing and another continue to Howe. Getting Howe, lefties it to Williams. Now Williams did not play in the AUDL last year, but you might remember him 2 years ago being a difference maker for Chicago. You could say the same about Jeff Saradneski. That pops up and it's intercepted. Andrew Brown, the reliable veteran, and Wiseman airs it out. Hanging in the air and caught. Kevin Brown hauls it in for the Radicals score. That is a break to give Madison a 1-goal lead.
It almost looked like Howe forced the misread with that. Brown kept his eye on the disc, adjusted very, very quickly, kept his body under the disc and pulled in that score.
So Wiseman picks up the assist, and there's the throw that just lofted over Williamson. You know, Andrew Brown was just a veteran play right there, attacking that disc.
You mentioned earlier the wind is not particularly intense, but just enough to affect play. That disc was popped up ever so slightly, giving Madison the opportunity to take it away.
Man-to-man defense here from the Radicals leads to a Callahan. And in his AUDL debut, Logan Pruce with the defensive score for Madison.
The UW Milwaukee Callahan nomination certainly doesn't make you wonder why with plays like that.
Just popped over the outstretched reach of Shea, and Pruce was there. Andrew Mechanix was ready and salivating for the D if Pruce could not make the play. That might not be the last Callahan we see tonight with conditions like this.
Probably not, and you saw the look on Joe Young's face. He realized what an opportunity he was creating for Madison, tried a second attempt at getting that disc, but to no avail.
So after jumping ahead 2-0, Chicago has seen Madison score 6 of the last 8. Wildfire down by 2 for the first time. Madison's defense can wear you down, Megan. Riggles with the interception to Frood. Kevin Pettit-Scantling. Good pivot, swing to Coolidge. Straight stack offense in the end zone, and Wriggles with an uncharacteristic drop. Certainly the conditions influence that. So a chance for Chicago here. Simpson takes the shot. Nelson could not size it up. He had Wriggles in front of him and Mechanix behind him. Launching it the other way, and it's Chicago's Simpson getting it back. Wow. What do you think about the deep decisions? It seems like it's getting harder and harder mentally to work 80 yards down the field with the rain and wind falling.
Well, it looks as though Chicago is making decisions to throw deep when their players really are not that wide open.
Yikes, Kevin Pettit-Scantling with a drop.
And then when you see that disc go up, there are 2 or 3 Radical players swarming the disc. I understand the desire to get it farther away from Madison's end zone, but it's not really doing them a lot of good.
Timeout called from the sideline. Chicago coach Chris Ashbrook made the call, and we'll take the timeout too. The second-year head coach wanted to talk it over. His team has only scored 4 goals so far, but it's a 2-goal game here at Breese Stevens. Good night to have an umbrella, that's for sure. Well, maybe not. The wind can make a good umbrella a little irritated.
Yeah, it looks like the wind has definitely picked up since you and I were last on the field.
So with 6:55 to go in the second quarter, Madison leads 6-4, and Megan Tormey is mentally getting ready to go down onto the field to do an interview in about 7 minutes. How's that mental process going?
Remind me to write that out of my contract next year.
Yeah, it's in there. Halftime interviews. Get a new agent. So Chicago will begin this possession with the disc. Simpson with a quick swing. Chicago starting in a basic horizontal stack downfield. Madison in its man-to-man defense. The precipitation has followed the wildfire around to an improbable extent over the past couple of seasons. Last year, Chicago had rain in 9 of its 14 regular season games. And this is the 3rd time this year, Megan, in 5 games that Chicago has dealt with these type of conditions.
Well, then you have to agree they're certainly well practiced.
That's a great point. Nelson up the line and just out of the reach. Is that Simpson who got a hand on it? Frood to Swain. Nelson on the mark. And Weber was wide open. Weber looking long, and the throw skidded off the ground in pursuit of Meyer.
Yeah, his release was just a little too low. It's possible he was thinking, maybe I shouldn't be throwing this, but his hesitation definitely came out in the execution.
Well, no one would say that Weber made the Radicals roster because of his throws. He's on for a variety of other reasons. Here's a contested disc caught by Scheel, who lofts it forward. Saraneski. And Jay Frood came out of nowhere. Holy cow. But he's called for the strip, and it's ruled as a goal. Saraneski and Frood will discuss.
Well, discussion aside, you have to give credit to Scheel for that particular play. He waited just the right amount of time to give Geoff the opportunity he needed to run. Certainly not anticipating that closing speed from Frood.
and I think they ruled that it was a foul, but not a strip. Integrity rule after the discussion will give Chicago the disc, but it won't be a goal, which I think is it certainly didn't look like a strip, Meg.
I agree. I don't think so either. I think this is probably the best way for this play to play out.
How about the hustle from Frood? He wasn't even in the shot when we began that highlight.
Yeah, absolutely. Shield thought that he had made the precise, correct throw and that was in the bag for Chicago. Frood said not to be.
Kevin Brown running on the field. Double team near the goal line and the turnover on the Scoober. Yikes. Brown had plenty of time to Swain. And a little bit too much hot sauce on that throw off the shin and hand of Frood. Sheehan to Simpson. Shield. Not a ton of movement downfield. Simpson threads the needle. Shea to Nelson in the end zone. Another long marathon point. Chicago converts.
Shea and Nelson closing that one out for Chicago. Nelson doing a fantastic job of being very aware of where the end zone line is. Made a last-ditch jump to ensure he got in.
And that's the throw that opened it up. Shea with a well-timed cut to the break side, and Simpson showing off the handling skills, illustrating why Chicago brought him aboard. So that point took about 4.5 minutes off the clock. And it brings Chicago back within one. It's the first of 12 games in the AUDL this weekend. The only game on the schedule on this Friday night. Annan thought about it. Centers to Brown. Brian Hart, former Wisconsin Hodag captain. His old college teammate Colin Camp. Andrew Brown played for Wisconsin much longer ago in a different era, part of the Hodag's first ever championship team back in '03. And the D underneath there from Chicago's Michael Pardo. One of the fastest guys in the Wildfire. Pardo comes up with a D. And contact will keep the disc with Chicago. Williams. And it was intercepted. Madison will take a shot. Disc keeps floating, and what a catch! Dave Wiseman in the end zone for the Radical score.
Unbelievable. Over the shoulder of Williams. Wiseman makes it look like it's a sunny day. There was no defense and no rain.
Absurd play from Dave Wiseman. That'll be the club junior catch of the game. And this will require several more looks. It looked like Williams was there, didn't it?
It looked like Williams was in position to make it absolutely impossible for Wiseman to make that catch.
It was Jaden Scullion unleashing, and the disc floated perfectly like it was magnetized toward pig number 21. And Wiseman using every bit of his 6'4" reach. It's been an interesting week for him. Of course, his lovely wife Robin, a great ultimate player herself, a member of the Team USA mixed team that's headed to London in about a month, but she suffered a torn ACL this past Sunday trying out for her club team, which she captains, and we certainly wish Robin Wiseman all the best in her recovery. She's a great ambassador of the sport. Dave hooked a great one on that catch, hooked an even better one in his life partner. Well, a couple drops both ways. Switched possession of the disc a couple times. Christian Simpson to Shea and further. Fergus, marked by Coolidge. Underneath Saraneski. Miller. Fergus, double teamed. Slices it through anyway. Alan Guilon gives it up to Young. Chicago showing good patience now. Megan, they're out of timeout, so no safety valve from the sideline coming.
And this is where it becomes crucial that they stick with the game plan they came in with. They want to make sure they keep it off of the sideline.
Low throw, tipped up, and Nelson could not create the second effort catch. Preuss gives it to Frood. And I think Madison calling a timeout from the sideline, so that's the Radicals' second timeout of the half. Madison up 7-5, looking to stretch the lead to 3 when we come back.
Imagine you're in a new town for a couple of days and you find yourself wanting a bike. Use Spin Lister to rent any kind of bike in your area in over 55 countries. Have an unforgettable adventure while saving up to 40% on rentals. And whatever you do, don't forget to enjoy your ride. Rent a bike today or list your own to start making money and connecting with awesome people.
Radicals O-line returning to the field, and you see in the foreground Dave Wiseman, who just made one of the great catches of the season, especially considering the conditions. That was just his third goal of the year. But a couple of years ago, he was a guy, in fact, the first guy in the history of the league to go over 30 goals, 30 assists, and 30 Ds in a season. A guy certainly capable of putting up numbers. Wiseman, Mechanix, and Kittredge are the three guys who have gone 30-30-30 in the regular season in the AUDL.
I think that's more a testament of the rest of his team growing, developing, and maturing. Anytime you see someone's stats change significantly and yet their athleticism not diminish at all, it just says that the Radicals across the board are getting better and better.
This time Wiseman, a distributor, looking long. It was tipped up and knocked away. And he has been more of a distributor this year and last year. A couple years ago, Tim DeBile said he was more of a deep cutter, either catching goals or catching it on the brink of the end zone and then distributing the one extra pass for the score. Final minute now here in the second quarter. Very important possession here for the Wildfire. And Williams misfires. Camp picks it up, centers to Kevin Brown. Here's his brother Andrew. Wiseman. Andrew Brown, not known for his deep shots, a very reliable underneath guy, and there's super reliable underneath cutter Hart. Into the hands of Annan. Clock winding down. Camp throws it up, and it's hauled in by Tom Annan. The animal, at the end of the second quarter, gives the Radicals a 3-score lead. So a pretty strong conclusion to the half for the Radicals. It was 6-5 Chicago had some chances to tie it up, but then Dave Wiseman made that great catch. And here, Annan rising up in the closing seconds of the quarter. Chicago just looking around at one another, wondering what happened. So a topsy-turvy first half. Both teams had leads of multiple scores. Chicago was up 2-0 early, and then Madison closes the half on what turned out to be an 8-3 run to lead it 8-5 at the break. Madison trying to stay perfect on the 2016 season, and it looks like Megan Tormey's down on the field. She's got an umbrella to help her stay dry. She's down there with Dave Wiseman.
Thanks so much, Evan. Dave, first of all, tell us, what is it like playing in this weather?
It's tough. I mean, the wind is pretty bad, pretty heavy crosswind, lots of rain, disc is wet. You're seeing a really messy game out there. Like, you just gotta fight through.
How is it impacting what you guys want to do offensively and defensively?
I mean, it's just slowing the game. I mean, basic throws and catches, disrupt the play. You've got to play defense and then try to get right back into offensive rhythm, which is not easy.
Well, it didn't seem to impact you at all on that catch over Dan Williams in the end zone. What did you have to do for that Herculean effort?
I mean, it's just don't give up and a lot of luck. When that disc came up, I mean, it was coming low, crosswind, gave it just enough effort that, I mean, he clearly had position. I just kept moving with a little prayer. It popped right at the last minute and gave me a chance.
Well, it doesn't look like the conditions are letting up at all. What, if any, adjustments can you make in weather like this?
Just a little more concentration and focus on each individual catch. I mean, I think you've seen it a couple times. Disc is coming into somebody and people are already turning to look downfield at the next play. You have to stop, take that extra second, complete the pass, and then continue to the next play.
All right, well, thank you so much. Go be warm, get warm with your team, and good luck in the second half.
Thank you.
Back to you, Evan.
Megan, thanks so much. We'll line up a second interview in just a second as the Radicals lead by 3. And, you know, in the interest of getting Mike Shield to the locker room as quickly as we can, we'll send it back down to Megan right now. She's with Chicago's Mike Shield.
Thank you so much, Evan. Mike, you guys are doing a fantastic job of standing your ground in this weather. Talk to me a little bit about what your goals were going into this game.
We knew it would be a tough battle. I mean, Madison's always the top team in the division, so we knew we had to minimize our mistakes. You know, we kind of had a forecast coming in, so we knew it might be sloppy out here. So I think really just trying to concentrate and minimize our mistakes. Can't give a team like Madison many chances. As we see on the scoreboard here at halftime, you know, they did a better job at capitalizing. Both teams had plenty of mistakes, but they did a better job of capitalizing on ours, and we have to fix that in the second half.
The conditions today are not entirely different from your first game against Minnesota, which resulted in a loss. What changes have you made, both personnel and adjusting to the weather, to help you have a better showing this time around?
Yeah, you know, I think that first game, it's a tough one, your first one right out of the gates. You know, we have practice under our belts, but it's just not the same. So I think, you know, just getting some more reps. We've got quite a few new personnel on the team this year. So just getting more reps and being more familiar with each other, I think makes a big difference at this stage in the season versus that opening Minnesota game for sure.
And then what are you guys going to do to close this very narrow gap the second half?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to pick up our D and put pressure on them. I mean, we've forced a few mistakes out of them, but you know, we got to step it up if we're going to have a chance to close this gap for sure.
Well, thanks for taking a moment to talk with us. Take care. Back to you, Evan.
Thanks so much, Megan. Mike Shield, a special education teacher in Chicago. He grew up on the northwest side of the town. Means a lot to him to play for his city in Pro Ultimate. And on a night like this, how good would a win feel to snap Madison's long winning streak? 8-5 is the score at the break. Madison leading Chicago at the half. We'll take a quick timeout. When we come back, we'll show you the finest plays from week 6 in the AUDL. Might have been the best top 10 of the season, so stick around for that. Madison by 3 at halftime.
If you want to follow the AUDL on your phone, now you can. Download the brand new AUDL app on your mobile device and get up-to-the-minute news on your favorite Pro Ultimate team. This is your new home for live scoring, up-to-date standings, game recaps, highlight videos, and more. It's the new best way to follow Ultimate at the highest level. Don't miss any of the thrilling hucks, towering skies, or monstrous layout Ds. Check out the free AUDL app today.
It escapes one poacher, but not CJ O'Brien.
Nice grab by number 36.
Totally fooled CJ O'Brien, and it's a scooper from Templeton Walcott. Oh my goodness!
Nice bring, but Nathan Fitzroy.
Him in the backfield, he throws a blade out into space. He is rescued.
Still on offense, that one's going to go over the top and a grab. A beautiful play from Peterson.
Hey, wow! Dan Schuster trailing the play.
Ooh, what a grab.
To Brent Matsuka! A huge layup by New York does not do enough. Matsuka scores and the Breeze win.
Oh no.
Wow.
A super hug from Matt Bennett to Dalton Smith.
Alan Lobby with a big hit on Casey. Great deep balance.
What a grab! It looked like it was just going to be out of reach, but kind of.
Boucher doing that thing he does so well. Yet another goal, another score for the Outlaws.
Early recognition is critical, teaches middle school PE classes about ultimate Frisbee and cancer symptom awareness.
We're a registered nonprofit that advocates for an active, healthy lifestyle, body awareness, and speaking up if something is wrong.
Skills that, when it comes to cancer, can help save a life. Ultimate is a fast-paced team sport that's self-refereed, non-contact, and co-ed.
Spirit of the game is the foundation of Ultimate. That means we communicate respectfully, we're fair-minded, and we enjoy the game.
Ultimate is accessible to everyone. All you need is a Frisbee and some friends. Our team of coaches is made up of experienced and passionate leaders from the Ultimate community.
We teach kids that playing fair is more important than winning.
We can come to your middle school and run your PE classes for the day. And if we're not in your area yet, we'll send you our clinic in a box, where we give you the resources to run your own.
Ultimate Frisbee is one of the fastest growing sports in the world.
Teachers and parents love Ultimate Frisbee.
We are Eric!
And we want to work with you and your school.
Well, it's not a gorgeous night here in Madison, Wisconsin, but it's still fun to watch great Ultimate action, and the first Midwest showcase of the year tonight as Madison leads Chicago 8-5 at the break. Evan Lepler with Megan Tormey, and it's our first chance to visit during the season. I'm just curious, before we talk about the first half here, what have your impressions been of the division races around the league in Dallas and San Francisco, and what have been your thoughts watching from afar the first few weeks?
Well, it's been a very interesting off-season with as many shifts and changes as the AUDL has seen. First, I want to talk about San Francisco. I think Joshua Greenough did a fantastic job of developing some solid infrastructure, and then with the influx of talent, I've been amazed at how clean and cohesive San Francisco looks. Talking about Dallas, really, it's criminal how good their roster is. The top players on their team are, of course, very well-known individuals. It's really no surprise that they've come together and make offense look as easy as they do. And then, of course, I was thrilled to see Mark Lloyd return to the Toronto Rush. We can always expect good things from them, and with Lloyd at the helm again, of course, they're just going to continue to get better and better.
We jump into the highlights of the first half tonight, and certainly there were a lot of mistakes, but I think we also saw a fair amount of highlight reel type plays, more than you would expect for conditions like this.
Absolutely, and from both teams, and of course finishing out there with Dave Wiseman's amazing grab over Dan Williams. I've just been surprised at how clean things have been, in so much as we expected a very, very messy game given the conditions.
Score at the half, Madison 8 and Chicago 5. The Radicals continue their season tomorrow. In fact, both these teams have road games tomorrow. Madison, I think, has a 7 o'clock bus departure time to head to Detroit to play at the Mechanix. And Chicago, perhaps in part tonight and tomorrow morning, will head to the Twin Cities and play the Minnesota Wind Chill. And what a story the Wind Chill have been, just winning one close game after another. They beat Chicago twice, they beat Minnesota twice, and the Wildfire hope the third time is the charm tomorrow in St. Paul.
Yeah, you know that they're coming into this game with a chip on their shoulder. I think they were really hoping for retribution the first time they traveled to Minnesota. As you mentioned earlier, Chicago has had some roster issues. They haven't had their full squad together, but they are heading to Minnesota knowing that tomorrow is a must-win game for them.
It really is. There's no question about it. Chicago can't afford to lose twice this weekend if they want to keep playoff hopes alive. So the Radicals will begin the second half on defense. Headed Scantling, Coolidge, Frood, Preuss, Mechanic, Riggles, and Graffy on the D-line for head coach Tim DeVille. 12 minutes back on the clock, and here we go for the third quarter. I didn't ask you, what was it like standing down in the field? Yes, you had an umbrella, but how quickly did you want to wrap those interviews up to get back up to the booth?
It was much chillier than when we arrived earlier this evening. So while the rain seems to have picked up, the cool breeze is certainly making this a very, very uncomfortable, unpleasant evening to play in.
Well, you look like Al Roker standing in the middle of a hurricane down there, but you were tough and strong, and I know I could send you anywhere, and you will come back to me.
Yeah, as long as it's just 30-second interviews, that's not a problem.
So here's Chicago on the first offensive point of the second half. A.J. Nelson into the hands of Joe Young. Stall count rising. Young did not get it off. Logan Pruce on the mark, and Chicago stalled out. So Pruce will pick up the disc. Again, no Adam Drews tonight for Madison, no Bill Everhart, and no Abe Coffin. And without those three, Logan Pruce getting a lot of responsibility put on his shoulders in his AUDL debut. Nice catch there from KPS. And looking long for Pruce in the end zone. What a time cut that was. Pettit Scantling finding Pruce, and the Radicals break to begin the third.
Pruce seems to be having no difficulty shouldering the responsibility on him this evening.
He's a senior at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. As you mentioned before, their Callahan nominee for the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, Black Cat. Not as radical of a name as the Radicals. But as you said, Pruce looking very comfortable out there. 5'11". He grew up here in Madison, so he's certainly familiar with many of the teammates that he has now. A couple goals and a couple of Ds for the rookie. So Chicago facing its largest deficit of the night so far. Tough catch on the far sideline. Not sure there's any team in the league that sets the double team in the sidelines more cohesively than Madison does.
Which is why it's such a dangerous place to end up with the disc.
Another deep shot, and it's won by Chicago. Andrew Sheehan knocked it away from Seth Meyer.
And this is what Mike Shield was talking about during our halftime interview. It is crucial that Chicago pick up the defensive intensity to create more opportunities for them to score against this Radical squad.
Howe picks up the disc. That's a risky throw, but it finds the target. Tim Fergus lets it fly. Swain versus Saradneski. And on the second effort, Saradneski tumbles and secures possession. Pivoting into the contact, did not get a whistle until now. Contact is called, a fresh stall count. Gotta wait for the whistle to reset as Saradneski centers the disc. The veteran out of Ohio State picks up the assist. An important goal for Chicago there. Sheehan broke free in the end zone.
Certainly wasn't quick, but that's bookends for Andrew Sheehan. And Jeff Saradneski, no doubt thankful he is 6'3" tall, going against a formidable defender such as Mike Swain.
Great job staying with the disc. Oh, and he almost lost it. Didn't even notice that from our perch in the booth. Thank goodness instant replay is here. And Madison, not the most intense defense you'll see the Radicals play in the goal line.
No, absolutely not.
So just under 9 to play in the third quarter. The game began in a steady drizzle. It has intensified as the evening has progressed. Colin Camp. Someone's open, and the throw was off the mark. Chicago switched and had a couple defenders on Brian Hart, who was streaking deep. That left Scullion wide open, but the throw did not connect. Oh, and there's a tough catch. Michael Pardo stopped rotation with the right paw. Williams floats it, and on the sideline, Alex Champ is there. He lets a rip, And that's not going to work.
Those are the longer throws that have not been particularly effective for Chicago. They seem to be having a hard time getting separation downfield and putting enough spin on the disc to make it fly far enough.
Madison looking for it. Throw never came back in. Chicago should have decent field position here. About 30 yards outside of the end zone. Our question tonight, what 3 Midwest teams will make the playoffs? Let us know on Twitter at the AUDL, at Evan Lepler, at Migels000. Well, right now, this division has as much separation as any in the top 3 in the bottom 4. I think right now you've got to say Madison, Pittsburgh, and Minnesota, as Shea's layout comes up short. Which team outside of that 3, whether it's Chicago, whether it's Indianapolis, or maybe even Cincy or Detroit, do you think has the best chance to crack that top 3?
That is a good question. I would really have to say Chicago. I don't think that they're showing so far makes my answer all that credible. Indianapolis seems like perhaps a better response to that question, but I have to think that Chicago has the talent, just needs a little more time to pull it together to be that team.
There's a drop from the Radicals. Indianapolis AlleyCats, tough home game tomorrow. They're welcoming the Pittsburgh Thunderbirds to town. Indy looking for its first win against Pittsburgh. Chicago trying to get it back within 2. Amidst the downpour, the wildfire still burning. 9-7 as Pardo hauls it in.
Pardo has been described as just a raw athlete by his teammates. He's a younger player. He's finishing up at the University of Chicago, but they're ultimately very excited to have him on the team. Even though he's raw, he's fast, he's ready and eager to learn. He's already making a name for himself on the Chicago Wildfire.
And Pardo having a strong game. Couple of Ds. There's his first score. University of Chicago product. He'll never be my favorite University of Chicago alum, because that, of course, would be yourself, Megan.
I'm sure Pardo wouldn't mind being second to me.
You were at University of Chicago right when the program was starting out, right?
A few years after the program had started, yes.
You're not that old. I didn't mean anything by that.
Whoa. Back up, Evan.
So the Wildfire have scored back-to-back points and have cut a 4-goal deficit in half. Madison trying to play smooth offense and work it down the field. The tall lefty Wriggles gives it up. Thomas Coolidge, so steady. Playing more defense this year, but getting a look on offense today. Looking, Mechanix is there. Make it Graffy. And right on the brink of the end zone, Frood to Bruce. That's a Kansas City connection for Madison to make it 10-7.
Frood did an excellent job dictating exactly what he wanted there on the end zone. His first couple of looks did not quite work. Stall count rising indicated where he wanted to toss the disc. Just quick communication made that score possible for the Radicals.
I was looking for Mechanix long perhaps, but Graffy came in there. And Frood very close to the goal line on the catch, finally able to connect with Bruce. Now Jay stays out on the field, his 3rd assist of the night. Not sure it's in the budget for this year, Megan, but perhaps next year we get some windshield wipers for our windows in the broadcast booth. Not that we should be complaining with our warm and dry conditions up here in the booth.
Warm and dry and yet still wanting.
There's back-to-back turnovers on consecutive throws. Saradneski to Young. Chicago will play at at Minnesota tomorrow. Next Saturday, they're home to play Pittsburgh. Memorial Day weekend, they'll be at Indianapolis for their first meeting of the year with the AlleyCats, and that has turned into a pretty thick rivalry. Shields swings it to Young. The double team of Mechanix and Weber. I mean, the Madison zone, since the franchise's inception, has been probably the biggest story about the franchise, with Mechanix and Weber, the two double team marks of the zone, and they're just both gigantic, run forever.
And they work incredibly well together. Mechanix at 6'2", Weber at 6'6". They do a fantastic job of eliminating all opportunities playing off of one another.
There's an example of why Peter Graffi led the league in Ds a couple of years ago. He has a lot of chances on that late stall count trash that's thrown up there. Looking for the bearded giant. Weber! Got it! Matt Weber! He listed at 6'6", 210 pounds, and he threw it all around there.
Not to be outdone by Dave Wiseman, he makes a trailing edge catch. Rounds it out with a somersault for a score.
Graffi's going to get credit for the assist. But Weber with a tremendous acceleration grab in the end zone. And now back-to-back scores for the Radicals to rebuild the 4-point lead.
Plays like that absolutely fire up your teammate. If the Radicals were not excited to be here already, they certainly are now. I imagine this is the kind of thing that we're going to see just elevate their already great play.
And a mistake there leading to the Wriggles interception, and he quickly gave it right back. Oh, and Logan Bruce sneaking in from behind, a little back check of a D. And Chicago lays out to steal it right back. That was Andrew Sheehan. Get 4 turnovers and I think 5 throws there. And 3 of them were nice Ds. Williams, marked by Mechanix. Little slash cut to reset the stall count. And underneath for Pardo. Seems like Pardo's been getting open downfield all game long. Williams swings it for Nelson. AJ's had a fairly quiet night by his standards so far. Of course, last year, arguably the catch of the season here at Breese Stevens Field, the famous hair flip catch, which earned him a spot on the Sports Center top 10. And there's contact on the mark. Howe will have the disc 10 yards forward. Howe marked by Bruce. Able to break that mark. Lefty backhand, it worked out. Chicago hanging around as Pardo has the catch for the score. And that sequence really began with the break of the mark from Yiding Howe, been a 2-year captain at Northwestern. Well, here's Madison with the disc first, and you saw the layout from Sheehan, and then the lefty backhand to Pardo.
Both teams going D for D to that point. That can be really difficult to do once the other team gets a couple of Ds on you. Sometimes you find it impossible to keep working offensively, but Chicago not willing to give up that point.
There's a whistle on the pull here, and I'm presuming it's an offside call. that will give Madison the disc at midfield. John Thibodeau is the head referee tonight. Dan Rubenstein, Dan Lorela, Todd Eisenberg, and Sean Gonzalez, the other members of the AUDL officiating crew. Veteran crew here in Madison as the disc popped out of Wiseman's hands. He almost caught it on his back shoulder. That was very nearly a Thompson McKnight from what we saw McKnight do in the end zone against DC. Saradneski put it up, and it worked out. Just shy of the goal line. Zeman, an impossible scuba, and they get it. Sheehan, high arcing scuba for Shea. Chicago back within a deuce. That is one gutsy toss.
Yeah, that is indeed a very risky throw, but I have to give him credit. He definitely made sure that he was sending it to an area of the field where there was no blue and yellow, giving Chicago an opportunity to make a few adjustments and pull that in for a score.
So the Wildfire back within 2 on that toss from Zeman, who's back home. He played at University of Wisconsin his college days. Chicago, another break would be certainly huge. Remember, the Radicals will receive the disc to start the 4th quarter. So Madison's the team that might be looking for the double score, wrapping it around the 3rd and the 4th, but a mistake there. Williams dishes it to Phelps, quickly back to Williams. Surveys the field. And I think that was a brief triple team call that will refresh the stall count and give Chicago the disc in the center. And that'll work. Wildfire within 1. Champ from Williams. This is fun.
Yeah, that was fantastic positioning on Champ's part. He noticed exactly where there was opportunity for Williams to get off a very quick throw. The split second that whistle went off, Williams took full opportunity of that.
Well, Williams has been very steady with the disc, and you saw the referee's signal. What do you think, Megan, about the Wildfire, or the Radicals rather, staying in that zone defense right on the goal line?
Well, I think it's worked for them in the past because they're very heads-up players. Plus, once that field is short enough, they have more defenders in a smaller area, so they don't have as much area to guard. So I think they thought this has worked for us in the past. It really was heads-up play between Champ and Williams that made that score possible.
So Madison, with just over a minute to go in the 3rd, up by 1. Nice pivoting, and the throw to Brown. A bouncy mark from Miller. Under a minute now here in the 3rd. Andrew Brown to Wiseman. Looking long, it's intercepted. Pardo with another D.
Great defensive read from Pardo on that. He cut the short path to make sure he could rip that disc out.
Nice direction there. Williams sending Zeman to the space, but underneath comes the Madison layout. And Brian Hart, like he so frequently does when the Radicals need a big play. Brown to pick up. Swinging it, far side of the field, incomplete. Chicago will try to get one huck off. That's not going to get to the end zone. And that will be the end of the 3rd quarter. I don't think that'll count. No, Radicals did not get it off. So we've got ourselves a 1-score game as we take the turn to the 4th. 3-0 run from Chicago to close that 3rd quarter. 3 down, 1 to go. Madison and Chicago in a good one here on ESPN3. On a rainy night here in Madison, the Radicals lead by 1 after 3. Evan Lepler with Megan Tormey with you here at Breeze Stevens Field, a place where the Radicals have not lost in over 3 years. In fact, it was 3 years and 1 day ago that a team known as the Windy City Wildfire, in their first year of existence, knocked off the Madison Radicals on May 12th, 2013. And since that day, the Radicals have never lost here at home. Highlight of the third quarter was this Weber layup, the difference in the game at the moment. That score made it 11-7, but Megan, what do you see from Chicago? How'd they get back into this?
They have remained determined to keep their place, keep their foot in the door this game. I have definitely seen their defensive pressure pick up. They've also made some really smart choices offensively. I don't think their offense is quite as clean as they would like it, but they've still eliminated some of the unforced errors that were costing them more points in the first half, tightening up, and that has closed the gap for them in the second half.
And for those of you who just joined us, perhaps seeing on social media that we've got ourselves a 1-goal game headed to the fourth quarter, it has been an ugly game in the scope that there have been plenty of turnovers and drops, but there have also been a slew of highlights. We saw Dave Wiseman make an absolutely spectacular grab earlier. You saw Weber's third quarter catch. Michael Pardo has been excellent on defense. We saw Andrew Sheehan very involved on both sides of the disc. Give me a key to the fourth quarter for both teams.
Well, I think that Madison is going to have to go back to that zone defense and stop the momentum that Chicago has been experiencing. And then in terms of what Chicago needs to do, I love the pressure that I've seen from them on defense, but their defense has to convert if they want to stay in this game.
A great hustle running down the field. Neil Phelps preventing that first throw center to Andrew Brown, and the man defense of Chicago making it very tough now. Annan has to fire, and it's stolen out of the air by Vaughn Alangilan.
Vaughn had eyes for that disc the moment it left Tom Annan's fingers.
Chicago with the disc, trailing by a goal early in the fourth. You know, Neil Phelps doesn't get any statistical credit for the D there, that Alangilan, but it was Phelps preventing the center of the disc to Andrew Brown. 3 times Annan looked at him, and all 3 times it wasn't there because Phelps was playing so hard on that handler reset. Howe just went to the disc in time, but then threw it away. Wiseman got his hand in the passing lane and knocked it down. Kevin Brown picks up the disc to Jaden Scullion, the eldest Radical. Still very solid. Annan looking long to Camp, floating perfectly, but not into the hands of Camp quickly enough. It was knocked away, and Chicago will take over as Eric Johnson, the former Indianapolis AlleyCat, coming up with a D in the end zone.
I was surprised that disc came out a little bit flat from Tom Annan. That's uncharacteristic. I'm sure he was trying to make sure he didn't sail out the back of the end zone, but that gave it just the shape that Eric Johnson needed to maintain his position and take that D.
You've seen Eric Johnson make plenty of highlights in the past in an AlleyCat jersey. Chicago gets the pass forward, but I think before that last completion, Chris Ashbrook took a timeout. So Nelson, Shea, Miller, Fergus, Sheehan, and Young all heading back onto the field for the Wildfire. Chris Ashbrook, like yourself, with a young infant at home. Chris Ashbrook on paternity leave from his regular job. His daughter was born on January 27th, a couple of weeks after Megan gave birth to her first son. And there's the D from Alan Gilon. I know that D makes you happy, not as happy as Weston perhaps, but
Weston makes me very happy. I was talking with Cash earlier this season, and he said, "Oh, is Weston sleeping through the night yet?"
Not so much.
Tragically, no, but I'm glad things are going better in his household.
Well, you've told me that you read Weston the Tuesday Toss every week.
I do read Weston the Tuesday
that
Toss.
That probably gets him a little too worked up.
That's my mistake. I'll stop reading it to him before bed. We'll find
some people, it can put them to sleep, but other people, that Tuesday Toss just gets them really rambunctious, and it's hard to fall asleep for a couple days after.
Mom, I can't wait for the weekend now.
How does Weston react to the Tuesday Toss usually?
He's very vocal about it. He's got a lot to say. Unfortunately, I can't understand any of it, but you know, I do know that he loves handlers. So anytime you talk about throws that have been spectacular, it's pretty excited.
He's gonna have one killer flick huck in just a short while, I'm sure. So Madison on defense here. Chicago with its offense back on the field. Madison making it tough on him, and a stall called before the completion to Nelson. And amidst these conditions, which is function like an 8th defender, the 7 defenders wearing jerseys have played really hard both ways tonight. And the defense just an inch shy that time. It's Graffy in the end zone for the first score of the final frame. 12-10 Radicals. Tough break to have the stall right out of the timeout, but you got to give the Madison defense loads of credit. Just great hustle there from Simpson, who was inches away from the D in the end zone.
Absolutely. Anytime you force a team to stall, that speaks volumes to the defensive effort of the team at large. That means there were no opportunities whatsoever. Just had to give it up.
Graffy, after the score, stays out there for the pull. Turns out to be a pretty short pull into the wind. Headed Scantling on the mark. Simpson with the disc. Needs a reset. Did not get it off. Oh, this Radicals defense with back-to-back stops. Can they convert again quickly after the stall? Oh, they call contact. Crafty move as Young, I believe, was trying to sneak around and almost got the disc cleanly, but as Graffy cocked his right arm, Young made the contact. Lefty backhand to Pruce, knocked away. Good poach there from Chicago's Simpson. Nelson and Riggles, a great matchup. Nelson with a turnover. Pruce will pick it up. Quickly for Riggles, now marked by Miller. Graffy. Mechanix. Angled flick. Incomplete.
And faced with some stifling defense, Chicago is now answering back with some really tight defense of their own. It's making it very difficult for Madison to capitalize on the opportunities they've generated.
Well, as you and I both know from playing this game for a long time in conditions like this, when the disc is wet, not only is catching tough, but that flick is harder to grip than the backhand.
And the longer the night goes on and the cooler it gets, the more difficult that gets.
Madison finally puts it in. Graffy to Frood to make it a 3-score game. So more than a third of that quarter, over 4 minutes off the clock in just those 2 points, which goes to say that Chicago down by 3 Now, this is not a game where you'll run off scores every 30, 45, 60 seconds.
Absolutely. However, we have seen them go on a 3-point run this very half. They're going to need to turn on that same kind of pressure in order to close the gap that has created in the last few minutes.
Peter Graffey, the anchor to the zone defense that Madison has employed so successfully the last few years. A rare deep point that doesn't include Mr. Graffey. Meineke gets it started. Good pull, sailed more than 70 yards. And even when Madison doesn't go zone, they do a lot of poaching in the lanes to try to throw a little junk look at the opponent. That disc ruled up. It was close. Williams keeps it alive.
Yeah, and that's a really smart move on Madison's part. It makes the handler second guess every opportunity that seems to present itself, because at any point in time, a Madison player could close what appears to be an open lane.
Not totally sure if Weber got a piece of that disc. It looked like he might have, which was intended for Howe. Nelson floats it far side. Bruce. Big backhand from Logan Bruce. Right on the money. Mike Swain, inches from the end zone. That will work. Frood gets another gift of a goal, but the play of the point was the huck from Bruce.
And that was excellent. Executed so well, there was no chance that Chicago was closing out that distance. It stayed in front of Mike Swain the entire time. All he had to do is keep his eyes on the disc and run straight forward.
Yeah, Weber just got the finger on the disc, and a huge corkscrew release of the backhand to Swain. I think Logan Bruce can play in this professional league. I don't know about you.
Yeah, if this was a tryout game, I think he's accepted.
In his debut, he's done a little bit of everything. And he did not record any official stat for that last goal. He should have.
Hockey assist.
Sure.
No one's recording that.
Almost feels like a must-score point here for Chicago. Don't want to fall behind by 5 with less than half a quarter to go. Radicals defense has really clamped down here in the fourth. Wonder what Tim DeBile said in between the quarters. And there's just an unforced error, but when you've been pressured so persistently, that looked like an unforced error, but you give the Radicals determined defense for the last 6 minutes credit for that too, don't you?
I like what you said earlier. It's exhausting to go up against the Radicals defense.
Oh, Frood on the sideline. Elevates for the catch. And then hits Pettit Scantling up the line. Airing it out, looking for Mechanix. Oh, and Mechanix just clutched it on the goal line and hit Frood in the end zone. The Radicals pulling away here in the fourth quarter.
Pettit Scantling undoubtedly grateful for Mechanix's play. Anytime your receiver has to stand stock still, that usually is a sign that it wasn't executed exactly how you intended. But with a receiver like Mechanix, you know it's in good hands. Frood coming up to close out that gap.
Jay Frood's played a good game, but he's also gotten a bunch of those garbage goals when his teammates have made the bigger play, and he's just stayed with it and made that big stride into the end zone.
Well, that's essential as well. That shows that you are heads up, eyes on the game, you understand what's going on, you're in it.
So the Radicals were their largest lead of the night, and Chicago, sensing a need to talk it over, calls a timeout. And the Chicago huddle right now looking very focused. I mean, they've played a really good game, you know, considering the conditions and their opponent, and just the lack of big names on this roster. You know, it's the first time that they've had all of their 3 Kansas City guys working with AJ Nelson, talking about Hidaka, Young, and Simpson. But of course, Hidaka was injured in the first half, and we have not seen him back out on the field. He's still on the sideline with his jacket on, looking quite cold.
You're right, it's a lot of variables to overcome for a team. And you think about Madison Radical, you think about Toronto Rush, where for the most part it's the same team that takes the field year after year. And that speaks wonders for how confident you can be when you step onto the field. You know exactly what your teammate is going to do.
And we talked right at the top about, you know, what Madison's mindset has to be, because you want to think one day at a time, but the reality is Madison 3 years in a row has had its season ended by the eventual champion in the Final Four weekend. 3 years ago, losing to Toronto in the finals, and then each of the last 2 years falling to San Jose, once in the semis, last year in the title game. Every one of those games, Megan, has been close. So the Radicals don't need to reinvent the wheel, but they do need to figure out something to be 2 or 3 points better against those top level teams.
And that's really hard to do when you don't even have the opportunity to play against one of the top division teams just once during the season, just once, to see where your weak points are, where you'll need to improve. They have to perform basically without having had a dress rehearsal.
So the Wildfire have not scored since Champ caught the goal from Williams with 1:12 remaining in the third. It was 11-10 at that point. Madison on a 4-0 run here in the final quarter, and the hand block from Mechanix canceling the attempted high release from Fergus, and that might do it. Meyer collects the score after the Mechanix block. Madison by 6. The final score may make this look like much more of a lopsided game than it actually was, but it has been a lopsided fourth quarter.
It has been a lopsided fourth quarter, and I really think that helps. I really think that's where the good teams can separate themselves even further. It's a really long game to have to play. That fourth quarter can be mentally fatiguing, and if you don't stay in it, it's so easy for the opposing team to go on a run that it becomes insurmountable, particularly because of time.
That's a huge pull. Howe centers to Williams. And I think Chicago wants to be a team that will launch downfield to some of their big targets, but on a night like this, against an opponent like this, the deep game from Chicago has basically been a non-factor.
And that becomes so exhausting. You need those points that take simply 30 seconds and you have another point on the board. But when you have to march it down point after point, that's very fatiguing for the cutters to have to continuously work in. And that can take its toll over the course of the game.
Shea with a gorgeous throw, but just out of the reach of Johnson, who was trying to make another highlight reel grab there.
And that, I have to think, was because of the Radical pressure he had at his back. There had been just a little more separation. He might have taken a few steps. That would have let the disc sink closer to the ground and you would have been able to catch it.
Coolidge to Bruce, big layout, certainly contact. That has to be a whistle, and there it is. I do think referees are doing a much better job this year on some of the incidental contact on layouts. With the way the rules are written, it kind of has to be a foul. Even though in the club game, that's the type of play that probably wouldn't be called because it would just be a stall count 1 like it is now. It's a much more consequential call in the pro game.
Right, because of the yards given as opposed to just being a hiccup in the game.
There's a good throw from the Wildfire as Nick Zeman connects with Jack Shea for the Chicago score. Makes it a 5-goal game with just under 3 minutes to play.
Interestingly, Zeman comes from a football background. You don't often see that crossover. Soccer, cross country, those are the more common places Ultimate gets its players.
We have seen some former football players, though, make regular appearances in the highlight reel this year. And in fact, I was thinking on my flight yesterday, there's a big opening on the top 10 highlight reel this week because the Charlotte Express are off this weekend, which means I don't think Jakeem Polk can make another appearance on the top, but maybe he can. Maybe Polk, even without the Express having a game, could still do something that's worthy of a top 10 highlight because he has been jaw-dropping to watch so far this season in the South Division.
Maybe he can submit a video of him working out or something.
And of course, Jakeem comes from a football background. He was a Division II defensive back at Wingate College in just outside of the Charlotte area. So Wiseman lets a rip. Try Wise. No. Heck of an effort, but he couldn't get there. Pat Trywise has had a fairly quiet night by his standards. Up the line, Madison surrenders the 20-yard forehand. Oh, with less than 2 minutes to go, Megan, it looks like it's going to be 25% of the way to 100. 25 straight home wins for the Radicals. As Brown picks up the assist to Wiseman for the goal. 95 seconds left and the Radicals are back up by 6. Dave Wiseman with a much easier catch than the one he had earlier tonight, but still an important score to try to put this game away. Wiseman played 5 years at the University of Wisconsin after first attending junior college. And he didn't start playing Ultimate until pretty late in his high school career. Didn't play it seriously until Madison. He began his college career on the University of Wisconsin C team. And he told me that. I said, you got to really love Ultimate to play in the C team. But obviously a year later, he was on the A team and still has a bunch of regret about his final college game, the 2012 National Championship game when Tyler DiGirolamo and Alex Thorne, University of Pittsburgh team, knocked him off. Every time Madison and Pittsburgh meet in the AUDL, there's a little bit of redemption perhaps. But not really, because it never goes away.
It never takes away history.
That pain never goes away, for sure. So the Radicals with a minute to go, 60 seconds away from their 25th home win in a row. The suspense for those who are involved in the AUDL Pick'em is jaw-dropping right now. The official spread for the game was Madison by 6.5. And that will not cover the spread. So Chicago's going to fall to 2 and 3 with a huge game coming up tomorrow against the Minnesota Wind Chill. Johnson centering pass didn't work. Perhaps Madison might cover the 6.5 after all. Nelson shoots it. Mechanix catches it. 18-11 Madison. Radicals are used to playing games like this, where neither side breaks 20. This is Midwest Ultimate. And Andrew Mechanix, who hasn't had an outrageously electrifying game, but as you can see, very steady. The hand block in this fourth quarter helped to put the game away for sure. And Chicago with one last Hail Mary chance. So the Radicals will head out early tomorrow morning to play at Detroit, where they'll look to get to 5-0 on their season. Madison improves to 4-0 tonight as the Radicals take it 18-11. Every game's important for a team that dreams of being the #1 seed on championship weekend. But for the Radicals, certainly their biggest game is coming up in June when they face the Pittsburgh Thunderbirds for the second and final time this year. That's June the 4th. Madison's at Detroit tomorrow and hosting Cincinnati and Minnesota the next 2 weekends before that Pittsburgh rematch on June the 4th, and we'll have that game for you on ESPN3. Looks like the rain has lightened up a little bit, which is good news. Megan doesn't even need the umbrella for the post-game conversation, and who else would it be with except for the newcomer with Madison, who certainly made his mark in his debut. Megan, joined by Logan Pruce.
Thanks so much, Evan. Congratulations on an amazing first game.
Thank you.
So first of all, what prompted you to try out for the Madison Radicals?
I'd actually tried out the past few years, and they hadn't taken me because I was busy with college, and they finally decided to let me play this year, so I'm very excited.
Well, I bet they were regretful they didn't let you on the field sooner. What a fantastic first game. Tell me, how was your experience?
It was good. It was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I was a little worried about the no stall and stuff like that, or the no counted stall, and ended up just being the same game I've been playing, so it was great.
You know, sometimes it can be very difficult for someone who's new to hop on a team as well established like this. How was it that you were able to work yourself in so seamlessly?
Well, first of all, I'd been playing with a large portion of the guys on Madison Club for the past few years. And I also was one of the practice players last year, so I'd already known a lot of the system. But it was great that the other guys on the line took away all the calling responsibility for me. I didn't have to lead that much. I just got to go out there and play.
Well, congratulations again on a well-played game. We're looking for a lot more great things from you in the weeks to come.
Thank you.
And back to you, Evan.
Megan, thank you. Logan, great game. He said it just felt like playing any other Ultimate game, and why not? Certainly his teammates around it made it easy for him as the Radicals get the win and improve to 4-0 on the year and win their 25th straight game here at Breese-Stevens Field. With the way the season is unfolding, it looks like if Madison is going to be beaten either in the Midwest or in the championship weekend, obviously someone's going to have to win here at Breese-Stevens, which is one of the more fascinating subplots because, of course, championship weekend will be held here at the home of the Radicals. Despite the dreary conditions from a precipitation and chill standpoint, I know I had fun tonight. Hope you did as well. A really hard-fought battle from the Chicago Wildfire, but in the end, they did not have enough. A one-goal game after 3 quarters turns into a 7-point victory for the Madison Radicals. Next weekend, our AUDL season-long coverage on ESPN3 continues from Toronto. We'll be at Varsity Stadium next Saturday, 8 days from now, for the Toronto Rush and the Ottawa Outlaws. Looking forward to that matchup as the Rush try to stay atop the East Division. Ottawa, a hungry rival to try to knock them off. For our entire ESPN3 crew, for Megan Tormey, great to be back alongside her for the first time this year. I'm Evan Leffler saying so long from Breese-Stevens Field, where the Radicals remain perfect in 2016. Final score, Madison 18, Chicago 11. Good night, everybody.